forget what you just said to me. I don't know if I want to know.
Well, hey, super people. It's I, your old Grandpa Coyote, once again. Hanging out here on the mountainside, you know, lounging in the afternoon sun. It must be like 15, 20 above out there today. It's feeling pretty good. Suntan weather in Alaska. But winter is upon us here. My coffee's cold. I can't tell you just how old I'm feeling today. It's quite young, actually. Can't hardly believe it's another winter. It was just barely summer about 5 minutes ago. You know what I mean? Time's just flipping by. I took some pictures of the sunset the other day, and I got 3 of them inside of like 5 minutes. And the sun went from above the mountain to gone below the mountain, just that quick, you know, like 5 minutes. I remember as a kid and sitting and watching it go down, and it took a half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. It was like forever. I remember sitting in the schoolhouse as a child, watching that clock tick up there on the wall and looking outside at the sunshine and the blue skies and wanting to be there and not in there. You know what I mean? And that clock just seemed to go. I mean, it was slower than the 7 years itch. You know, so I know that time has speeded up in my lifetime. I watched it do it. It did a lot of it when I was living back in the mountains, but even after I came out and started living in real society again, so-called, man alive, it was like speeding up and accelerating even more. You know, the last 18, 20 years have been quite the acceleration, you know. Well, it's just an indication, people, of where we honestly are headed. And it's a moment where there is no time any longer. And for me to suggest such a thing, hell, 20 years ago, y'all was throwing stones at me. Now it's just tomatoes and eggs. That's not too bad. I can stand that. Thank you for your kindness, people. I appreciate it. But that's indeed, and it is. So we're kind of like seeing beings on this earth and what they see of as a race against the clock and trying to hold the clock back, because in some people's minds and hearts, that's a doable thing. And they don't want to lose the control they seem to think they've had here. You know? Well, shoot. It's a sad and sorry thing when people are thinking this way to start with, let alone plotting for centuries through bloodlines to, you know, dominate the earth in some odd and fanatical sort of way where everybody's hurting except you. I don't know what part of existential paradise that is, but it's a pretty corrupted one, and I don't think that's too cool of a place to be, because I can't be happy unless everybody else is happy. But I'll sure be happy first if everybody else will be, okay? Because the smart thing to do in this life, no matter who you are or what you're doing, you know, still taking it all so God blessed serious, is just to get real in yourselves, man, to be a part of what you're doing and what you're being here. You know what I mean? Put your heart in it, man. If you sell insurance, sell heartfelt insurance if you can. And if you can't live with that any longer, I'll find something else to do. There's always something good out there. It's amazing how many good products and good people there are in this world. And as an old guerrilla marketeer in the way back when, I can tell you that it's like, Jesus, there's some good things out there. There's some good people out there, even in the halls of billionaires and stuff, man. You know, you just got to not restrict yourself, man. You know, let go of all the little social parameters that would keep you apart and party. Set your foot forward. Go do what it is you're here to do. Keep your heart in what you're doing while you're doing it. I mean, that's what I do. And if I can't do it, I move on. You never stand still. You always um, take the forward path, man. Even when it looks like you're going backwards and life is kicking your ass really hard. I've been through some severe transitions lately, what some people would consider severe. And, man, not only have I survived, but I've thrived. You know what I mean? I had to learn some hard lessons about myself and my responses to things and people, you know. Uh, but mainly, I found out that all these changes were unburdening me, bringing me blessings, bringing me release, healing, freedom, room to grow. I mean, that's why I can do good videos, and they get better with time because I'm able to have the time I need to put into my personal as well as external expansion. I'm able to live in the world of the heart because I'm not so structured by the economic requirements here, not so enslaved any longer, but that could change in a heartbeat. Of course, everything does. And we all go through severe transitions in our lives. Some a lot worse than others, it's true. And some, it's a continual practice. Every 3 years there's a change. But if that's what there is there for you, that's what you're doing, put your heart in it. Love it. Be kind to it. Bless yourself for being able to do it. If nothing else, hell, you got this far with it. And that doesn't stop you from waking up in the morning and walking down the street and saying, baby, I'm moving on. My heart's been calling me to such and such a place since who knows when. And I don't care if I got $3 in my pocket, I'm going. I got my shirt on my back, I got my coat, whatever. I'm going. I'm heading that direction. And you can do this physically as well as metaphorically inside of yourself, Just notice that you already made that determination, that you really are willing to follow the heart, that you really are willing to be this heart, this inner knowing, this guidance that comes from in here and manifests itself through here and here and through these hands, these blessed hands, these hands with which we bless one another. Do you realize how spectacular of an instrument these little hands are? They're not just for creating goods and services and greeting one another. Hands convey energies. Hearts convey energies through the hands. It's a magic part of our healing. Touch is a blessing. And when we touch one another, we're touching one another's hearts. We're acknowledging our heartfelt presence here. I mean, just with a touch on the shoulder. A little encouragement. And yeah, a little shake of the hand. A hug is far better. We should be the huggingest society in the world here in the Estados Unidos. We really should. But are we? No, it's quite the contrary, But we're learning, We get our asses kicked every now and then, and we start to realize that maybe our brothers and sisters around us aren't such bad apples after all, and maybe we're on a worthy journey together, and we ought to be kicking butt together instead of living in fear of one another and being a threat to one another, or however it is we perceive our aloneness. I don't know how it is you can live in a city of 20 million people and be all alone, but you can't. Or at least you can think you can. How about with these hands you can climb out of a hole like that? Let the heart guide you, direct you. Even with your eyes. You may not even realize, but a lot of time there's that shine there, man. And something's pleasing you. You're sharing energy with one another. You're healing one another's heart without even knowing it. And becoming conscious is just simply knowing it. Then you apply it more directly because you know it. And pretty soon, there ain't no doctors or hospitals. Ain't no government. There's just you and me, and set everybody free, and we're rocking and rolling. Living in a different paradigm altogether. It's not unthinkable that love should rule here. Because even though you wouldn't think it now, it does. Even in this moment. All life, all activity is created of a loving and harmonious heart. It's in a state of forgiveness constantly because it understands its own self, its growing tendencies. What was true for it yesterday may not be for it tomorrow because tomorrow's another day and another way. We learn and grow as a collective, and each of us play our part in that collective, individual selves in a much larger heart. And we experience it as a singular consciousness in this present form of being. But the expansive reality, and everybody's feeling this longing for that expansive reality. To return to that state of being that's just opposite of what we see here. Opposite. When we're in instant communion with all beings that we meet, and there is instantaneous love and connection, divine connection, with everything and everyone, even the buildings around us, the trees, the grass, the birds, everything. It's what's known as divine empowerment. It's when you realize the consciousness of creation within yourself. This is ascension. And when we get to that place, well, it's just realizing that we already are. And of course, then our view of it changes. And the way the world operates, of course, changes right along with it, like I say. Through the magic of our hands and our hearts, we create a world that's without despair. That wouldn't even know what the word suffering meant. And we fucking deserve it by now, don't you think? I think so. I think humanity's gone the maximum with this suffering routine that we've repeated the same old bullshit again and again and again for thousands, millions of years. You know, gone to and fro and up and down and round in this extension we call time. Beat the hell out of each other to the point where now it's almost impossible for men and women to communicate. We feel so different from one another. Especially if you got a few years on and you've been through a relationship or two. Holy shit. You know? Some people get grizzled and they don't even know it, but they got guards and defenses. I mean, we do this to ourselves. Because we're doing it to ourselves, we're doing it to each other. And we're closing the door on the finest moments of intimacy that we could ever possibly know. Out of fear. Fear that we make the same old mistake again. Because they say love is blind, and boy, have we been blindsided a few times. You know what I mean? It happens. That ain't never going to happen to me again kind of thing rises up inside of you, and you don't want to even talk about it any longer. You want to stay single for the rest of forever, and you make that determination in your heart, you know. Oh, your heart ain't determining that. That's some kind of unconscious bullshit going on. Because, baby, no matter how bad or indifferent and difficult our experience has been here, the deepest longing we have is to reconnect with one another. to know this conscious state of being that I'm talking about, where when you just encounter each other in passing, there's an awareness of all the many lifetimes that you've lived, that they've lived. Everything that you are is right there. And you're in loving appreciation of one another. In fact, you may even veer off and come together for a moment, just to share the blessings of love, respect, gratitude, because you honor the experience that you carry, the heart that's led you to where you are now. And perhaps others will come and join in this little communion. Perhaps there's a whole heart here forming up in smaller ways too, with little groups of people. Perhaps we've already begun recognizing this state of being, and this is why our world is falling apart. Some people can't take it, and they're leaving. But no one is really afraid any longer, for real. You go down inside of this heart, and where you felt such danger before, there's going to be a feeling of success, that you're pretty damn close now, and that you really don't have to live this way any longer. You don't have to protect yourself at every turn. There's a change in this disease and illness that's run rampant through humanity and caused such great insanity and repression and heartache. Disgusting as it is, it's been a refinement process by which we really tested ourselves to the maximum. Stretched it to where we split apart many times, but always brought it back together again. It's the nature of the heart, and that's what we're doing now, bringing it back together again. Babies, I love you with all of my heart, and I know you love me too, because I feel it. I live it with you. Our deepest longings, the agony of the heart from the beginning of time, being fulfilled now. Because in the presence of this dream we call a reality, we finally figured out that we really are made out of love. Now, if that ain't rock and roll, you ain't got a soul. Don't worry about it. But if it is rock and roll, come party with us, babies. It's time. We don't have to sit around like this and wait for the world to end. Begin it again right here inside of yourself, inside of myself. And let this conscious heart gather us together in the ways that it will, because it most assuredly will. The times we've always dreamed about. The awakening, the gathering, the reunion of ancient hearts. The Ancient of Days fulfilled in the beauty of a poetic and dramatic dream that only we could have dreamt up and only we could have lived in. Good God of Christ, oh, I love you guys with all my heart and soul, and I know you love me, and I know we're about to pull off another reality. Blessings be. You can get through it, whatever it is. Hang on. Don't condemn yourself for the suffering or for the causing of suffering or for anything unexplainable that happens to you that brings up grief and agony. No, you're going through the grief of the centuries when that happens. And that person may have slipped over to the other side just so that you could experience that again. You would know the grief of the separation of death from the beginning of time, because that's what you feel when you feel that separation. And we've cured that already, and we're curing it now. inside of ourselves. We no longer live in desperation. We're beginning to realize, through this recognition of one another and the energies inside of us, as well as all around us, we're beginning to realize the nature and the power of love, and how greatly expansive that can be, and how influential in this creation it can become. Everything we ever dreamed of in idealistic ways, everything that seems utopian, that's what we're bringing into being. See you next time, kids. Just know that Papa loves you. Gotta put my glasses back on. Can't shut this sucker off without them. I don't know why the buttons are awful tiny on this one. There it is. I'll get used to it where I don't need it anymore. Rock and roll can soothe yourself.